Italy has rolled out the red carpet for Prime Minister Narendra Modi as he wraps up his five-nation diplomatic tour in Rome. Modi received a warm welcome from the Indian diaspora, cultural performers and local supporters before holding a high-profile dinner meeting with the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. The two leaders later visited the iconic Colosseum together ahead of the formal bilateral talks aimed at deepening India-Italy strategic cooperation. The visit is being seen as a key diplomatic push to strengthen ties in trade, defense, clean energy, maritime security and emerging technologies. Prime Minister Modi is also expected to meet Italian President Sergio Mattarella and review the India-Italy Joint Strategic Action Plan 2025-2029. India's ambassador to Italy says that both countries are now focused on turning their growing partnership into long-term strategic collaboration. The atmosphere in Rome carries a strong cultural symbolism as Italian musicians performed compositions inspired by Indian classical music, including Raga Hamsadhwani, while an Italian Kathak artist who lived in India for 15 years performed to welcome the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Modi also interacted with members of the Indian community and praised the diaspora for strengthening the India-Italy relations abroad. Across the five-nation tour, India has projected itself as a key global partner in energy transition, maritime connectivity and strategic economic cooperation. Our managing editor, Karthike Sharma, is on the phone line to get us more details. Well, Karthike, after this five-nation tour that the Prime Minister has culminated in Italy, what does it talk about the ties between India and Italy? We have often seen the Prime Minister and Meloni sharing a light-hearted conversation and always standing together with the nations. What does it talk about India-Italy relations?
Samya, if you look at the entire gamut of the last 3 to 4 days, it's about the Nordic Samband. You know, the entire idea is that Prime Minister is trying to create space for India of reasons that are being well documented by everyone on studies of climate change, if I may put it, and that is affecting Arctic. Then that is affecting Arctic, Samya. And the issue is that Arctic ice is shrinking faster than any other ice in the world. And if I say that, what does it mean? It means Arctic will become navigable instead of just for 3 months a year to entirely 9 to 10 months a year. Now that means that from defense perspective, from I would say energy perspective, from trade perspective, entire Arctic would be open to the bigger countries. We are an observer there. Now, it means that Arctic will be open for energy, Arctic will be open for oil, Arctic would be open for rare earth, and Arctic would recreate defense boundaries. Why? It is for this reason America wants Greenland as a base. Because Russia, Canada, America, and some parts of, I would say, Iceland, they're closer to each other than if the Arctic remains frozen. Now, if there is no Arctic as a frozen sea, it means that they are actually clinging to each other. And that is why this is a very important development that has taken place. Because once in near future, in 10, 15 years, imagine if the Arctic becomes navigable. In winters, the entire trade route will shorten. You will have no, I would say, zarurat for the trade of Hormuz. You will have no necessity for the Suez Canal because the land routes will become important. You know, if there are peaceful relationship between Russia and the United States of America, which will not happen, then the entire gamut of trade and energy will change. And when it comes to the melodious movement, I would say the pun apart or the photograph apart, India is investing more and more with the Europeans in terms of trade, in terms of energy, in terms of tech, because Americans have become unreliable. So the meeting with the Meloni that is taking place is India's reaction post, I would say, trade deal jitters, because the Americans haven't come to terms with Indian position. That is why we have no trade deal. So yes, it's a melodious movement in the sense that one, we have been able to crack a lot of things with the Nordic countries, and secondly, Italy is about Europe. It's like the change of focus. We have to de-link ourselves strategically from United States of America and also with China, with whom we have a trade deficit of $110 billion. And we have to move towards other countries. So that movement and minilaterals are taking place, those mini trade deals are taking place, those mini investments are taking place, so that the sort of shock which India had to undergo when the tariffs came in operation does not happen. So I think these photos are very important. What has happened in the last 72 hours is very important. That is why I've used the word Nordic Sambandh. Sambandh is a word used in Nordic countries, the root, which means connection, is both common to Hindi and Norwegian languages, Samya.
Interesting, Karthike, drawing that comparison, that link of sambandh between the Nordic vocabulary and the Indian roots to it. But of course, what you mentioned is that a Prime Minister is essentially laying the bedrock for essential trade, defense, clean energy, maritime security, and also emerging technology at a time when we are looking at how climate impact is being felt in the Nordic environment, especially in the Arctic, which may be navigable in the near future. The Prime Minister leaving no stone unturned over there to not only strengthen but lay that foundation between the Nordic nations and India for better trade and cooperation between India and especially in this case Italy. Karthike, I also wanted to ask you, as far as the 2025-2029 strategic action plan is concerned between India and Italy, what can we look forward to it? We are expecting the Prime Minister to go through the blueprint of it.
I think, Italy, in terms of ideology, obviously Italy has a government which has, centered to the right leaning. So, in terms of that ideological proximity, it is there. But, between countries, Samya, it doesn't matter. Parties from left and right can come to power. I mean, it just adds a little bit to the chemistry. Ultimately, the relationship between countries matter. But what is important is that India is trying to invest deeply in Europe. Italy is very friendly with us. You have to understand, like, for example, the cheese. The cheese which we eat, the Italian cheese, primarily it is being made in central Italy, and those who are involved in making are the Indian Sikhs, because Italians are not doing that job. So you'll be very surprised to know that Indian Sikhs are working in Italian farms where the hard labor is required to make that cheese, cottage cheese, and the fresh parmesan which is being made. So, there's a deep Indian connection when it comes to farming and other issues. So, Italy is not an outlier there. That's number one. Secondly, there is great, a lot of it. I think Italy is the tourist hotspot of the world. And Indians also go there. Italians also understand there. That's number two. Secondly, I mean to say Italy and Italian food, it's like Italian food, Japanese food, those are two truly international foods, available in every corner of the world. So obviously, India is an emerging power. Italy is not a big power, but Italy, it's like a soft power, cultural charm, a lot of history, and a lot of relationship. And India is just trying to diversify its relationship. We have been skeptical of West because of the colonialism which Indians got subjected to. You have to understand, America never colonized us. We had a very uneasy relationship with America because America always took side with Pakistan because of its strategic location. But the fact is that all these countries, there's a huge Indian diaspora. The values are the same, the liberal Western democracy or the liberal values. We share that. India is a liberal country. So I think it's a successful meet, not only in terms of optics but also in terms of meat. It's successful, Samya.
Thank you so much, Karthike Sharma, for bringing that insight to the story as far as the India-Italy connections are concerned, the partnership and the strategic economic cooperation that the Prime Minister is building the bedrock for.
Prime Minister Modi brought us a gift, a very, very good toffee.
Melodi.